Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know when someone's trying to convince you that they're absolutely certain, they're trying to portray steadfast confidence, but it just isn't there. I mean, there's something shaky in their voice. It feels more like an act, almost as if they're trying to convince themselves that they're confident. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting with Democrats, especially as more information drops here. You know, it seems like Democrats are trying to pretend as if this is a massive W. Donald Trump is going to be indicted and sent to prison. But who are you trying to convince of this W? Is it us or yourself? That's the question I'm asking myself. I wake up this morning and I'm taking a look at all the leftist headlines and some neutral or even right-wing headlines as well, and I'm not getting a great feeling of confidence. If anything, it seems like a good chunk of mainstream journalists are worried that this whole thing is going to backfire and backfire big, as Donald Trump is already starting to surge. His popularity seems greater than ever before as the Democrats turn him into a political martyr, and it doesn't seem like these charges are going to stick. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so take a look at this. Here are just a couple of the headlines. District Attorney Alvin Bragg to cross the Rubicon and divide the nation by indicting Trump. Trump is way ahead with Republican voters of color. His challengers better take note. Is Ron DeSantis slipping? Why a Trump indictment would have huge political and national implications. Indicting Trump, enormous effect. Trump sweats an arrest. We should sweat a second term. Alvin Bragg's political charge against Donald Trump. An indictment of a former president must be for serious offenses with indisputable evidence. Past Trump scandals haven't moved public opinion. An indictment likely wouldn't either. Could a Trump indictment actually help him politically? How an indictment could affect Trump in 2024. What happened, leftoids? I thought this is exactly what you wanted. This is what you were looking for. It's basically the Democrat dream coming true. Finally, you're getting Donald Trump, aren't you? I mean, that's what Rob Reiner seems to be saying on Twitter. He can no longer hide. We finally got him. The media should be doing a victory lap. It should be a victory tour. Kumbayas and hallelujahs. But instead, it seems as though panic is setting in. Let's go back to the previous article, the one from the Wall Street Journal. Alvin Bragg's political charge against Donald Trump. An indictment of a former president must be a serious offense with indisputable evidence. Interesting. An indictment of a former president should be a, quote, serious offense. Well, Democrats have already failed there. I mean, even the mainstream media and all these Democrat talking heads essentially admit that it's a nothing charge.
Simply because he may have committed worse crimes, you don't let him off of lesser crimes. If you are, for example, seeking a prosecution for murder, if the guy gets caught drunk driving in another context before that, you don't just let him go because you have bigger fish to fry.
Nobody is above the law, including Donald Trump. It doesn't matter that this is kind of a minor crime compared to some of the other allegations.
A crime is a crime is a crime is a crime. That's what anybody prosecuting or a judge would say.
A crime is a crime is a crime, as Mika said. An indictment is an indictment is an indictment. When I hear people saying this is much ado about nothing, I think about all the members of Congress I served with and understanding every single one of them would have been charged and sent to jail had they done this.
I was reading the Bible, which said that a man sows, that he may also reap.
They all admit that it's a supposedly small, nothing crime. I'd argue that there was no crime, but we'll get into that later. And the second element from that Wall Street Journal opinion piece, a serious offense with, quote, indisputable evidence. And here's where Democrats are seriously falling short. Let's go right back to the mainstream media. They keep saying this is basically the gist of what you're seeing in terms of news coverage and Democrat opinion. They keep just reiterating the exact same talking point of no one is above the law. He's being held accountable. Well, for what exactly? Nobody seems to be able to actually describe the crime that Donald Trump committed. It's just a bunch of vague statements. Donald Trump is a criminal, therefore he should go to prison. Well, what crimes has he committed? Well, you know the thing. Everything we are seeing and hearing from the establishment media is a bunch of incoherent nonsense, a bunch of vague partisan talking points of holding him accountable and no one being above the law, and nothing beyond that because there's no real facts to this case. There's no real evidence or proof of a crime. It's a joke of a case and they know it because the entire thing was built off of Michael Cohen's testimony. Their case is literally built off hearsay from a known convicted perjurer. Michael Cohen's former legal advisor, Robert Costello, the individual that we covered from yesterday's video, who was the last-minute surprise witness, puts it all into perspective.
Listen, if they want to go after Donald Trump and they have solid evidence, so be it. But Michael Cohen is far from solid evidence. this guy by any prosecutor's standard, and I used to be deputy chief of the criminal division in the Southern District of New York, I wouldn't have touched a guy like Michael Cohen, especially if he's a convicted perjurer. Not to mention, as I said, the 50 to 100 lies he told us that are in those 330 emails.
How do you think you dissuaded the grand jury from indicting the former president?
I can't say that, because you just don't know. I can't read people's minds. I could see certainly a few of them were doing what you're doing right now, shaking your head up and down, but not everybody. So I just don't know. I would love for those people to watch TV or something tonight, or just remember what I said and say to the prosecutors, listen, we'd like to see the rest of those emails. Don't cherry pick 6 emails out of 330 and then ask Costello questions about it. That's not fair by anybody's standard.
He also gives us a glimpse on the inside, further shedding light on how dishonest this grand jury investigation feels from his perspective.
I just spent 2 hours or so testifying before the grand jury in downtown Manhattan, and I got my point across, although it was clear to me that the Manhattan DA's office did not want to get to the truth. I need to explain that a little bit. I called them up after I saw Michael Cohen on TV stating things that he said he was going to tell the grand jury and had told the grand jury that were contrary to what he told us when we first represented him in April of 2018, and said, guys, I want you to know, I will do whatever the F I have to do. I will never spend 1 day in jail. Now, what he's saying is I'll lie, cheat, steal, shoot somebody. I will not spend a day in jail. Do you think a guy whose mentality is that is going to not admit that he has information on Donald Trump? But having said that, the DA's office didn't ask me questions to bring that up. And I brought it up anyway. I told the grand jury today I was deputy chief of the criminal division of the U.S. attorneys for the Southern District. I said I wouldn't touch a witness like Michael Cohen for any amount of money. You simply cannot rely upon this guy.
It was clear to Robert Costello that the Manhattan jury does not want to get to the truth. Rather, the truth is predetermined, the crime has already been decided, and they're working backwards to prove it. Tucker Carlson's legal research team also did an analysis on the case, and they raised a very important point.
Because there was a campaign in progress at the time, officials at the Federal Election Commission later examined the transaction between Trump and Stormy Daniels. Federal investigators concluded that nothing criminal had taken place. According to the FEC, there was no need for Donald Trump to report his payments to Stormy Daniels, nor was the money that he sent her through his attorney subject to campaign finance limitations. The FEC determined the entire thing was a personal expenditure. It clearly was. So what is the crime here?
Federal investigators deemed the Stormy Daniels hush money payment in the NDA as, quote, a personal expense and not a campaign expenditure. There is no actual merit to this case. It's a garbage political weaponization. It's as clear as day. And that's why confidence is already waning. Here's my perspective. I've been seeing reports about Donald Trump being in, quote, good spirits. I think at this point, Donald Trump wants to get arrested. I honestly think it's probably the best thing that could happen in terms of his re-election campaign. Democrats, of course, as usual, are overzealous. They act in a deeply corrupt, partisan manner, and it's going to end up backfiring. You know, probably the worst thing that they ever did was launch that Mueller investigation. Donald Trump pre-Mueller investigation and post-Mueller investigation, we're talking about two completely different political entities. He went from having one of the lowest approval ratings in modern American history, only to be then, of course, beat by Joe Biden shortly after, but he went from being deeply unpopular to maintaining a steady 45, 46, 47% aggregate approval rating. And that was a direct result of the witch hunt. The more Democrats do this, the more Donald Trump becomes popular. The more people sympathize with Trump, and most importantly, the more Donald Trump gets painted as an anti-establishment hero. Those types of supporters, those types of people who end up viewing Donald Trump in that way become his most staunch and loyal of supporters. Because at that point, it becomes good versus evil. It gives voters and supporters an actual purpose in supporting Donald Trump in defense against the witch hunt scams, the out-of-control, abusive Democrat political apparatus. I'm going to end this video with a prediction. Trump's favorability ratings and approval ratings have already been moving up. If they arrest him, or even on the news that they're planning to arrest him, I wouldn't be surprised if the next little set of polls that gets released, the most recent updates, shows Donald Trump surging. I mean, Ron DeSantis' political stock has already been tanking. I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump's polling metrics basically across the board start to skyrocket. That's my prediction. I think it's coming. I don't think these charges are gonna stick, and even if the charges stick and they end up finding him guilty, there's actually nothing in the Constitution that prevents someone with a criminal record from running for president, despite what some Democrats and some talking heads are saying and frankly hoping for. This whole process is going to be viewed as maliciously partisan. Donald Trump's going to be using it as a campaign angle. Throughout the entire campaign season, he's going to be saying, look what they did to me. These people must be held accountable. It'll be an incredible rallying cry, and I think it's going to backfire, and backfire hard. That's what I got for you guys, though. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.